Welcome back to Worldview. Now, as the crisis in Syria continues to grow, there's no shortage of speculative reporting from around the globe. In the rush to be first, many mistakes are made, and yet the drumbeat towards conflict and war is eerily similar to what we saw in the 2003 run-up to the Iraq invasion, right down to the search for weapons of mass destruction. We seem to have learned nothing. Indeed, corporate news reporting has gotten much worse, and social media is beating traditional media to the gun, and often with disastrous results. Rumors which seem to compound traditional media mistakes are now reported as news on far too many outlets. Joining us this evening is Dr. Mohammed el-Nawawy. Now, he's the Associate Professor of Communications at Queen's University in Charlotte, North Carolina. He's the Knight Crane Endowed Chair in the Knight School of Communications there, and specializes in communications across the Middle East. Dr. Nawawy is also a board member of the Arab-U.S. Association for Communications Educators, or OSAS. He's co-authored 2 books on media in the Middle East, Egyptian Revolution 2.0, Political Blogging, Civic Engagement, and Citizen Journalism, and a book, Al Jazeera, The Story of the Network That is Rattling Governments and Redefining Modern Journalism. Dr. el-Nawawy, welcome to Worldview.
Thank you very much, Dennis. I appreciate your hosting me.
So much I want to get to in our limited time together. Now, the recent no vote by the UK Parliament on Syria has caused the US to also slow down its own war machine. You specialize in conflict communications, so let's start with how the Arab Spring has changed communication across the region.
Well, there's no question that the Arab Spring has given Arabs the feeling that they have a say in what's going on the ground, and the media are always part of any society. So the media have been given that kind of, or maybe the thing that they have been seeking for such a long time, the freedom to say whatever they want. The Arab world had Al Jazeera, of course, since the mid-90s, but Al Jazeera has always been the kind of the go-to network for breaking taboos. Now Arabs feel that they have a say and they can determine their own destiny.
Aside from the political and PR benefits claimed by all sides, what's the real reaction on the ground now? What are you hearing about what's going on to the slowdown of potential hostilities?
In the Arab world, there has always been a feeling of agony, seeing what the casualties that are falling every day in Syria. But in the meantime, Arabs are very cautious in terms of any military move coming, particularly from the West and particularly from the United States, because the scenario of the Iraq war, as you alluded to in your introduction, is looming in the background, and the nightmare of a country slipping further into a ditch, I think is always on people's minds. So while there is support, while there is opposition to what the Syrian regime is practicing with its people, there is a very big resistance to any foreign intervention by any Western power.
While I was watching the original uprising in January of 2011 in Egypt there, I was mesmerized by the real journalism that was being committed by Al Jazeera. Now, this is the network that was demonized by George W. Bush, but they own current and recently converted it to Al Jazeera America with the same level of in-depth reporting as we see pretty much readily here in Europe. Can they become a real game changer in the U.S., and if so, how?
I'm one of the people who is very excited to see Al Jazeera America finally make its way into the media map here in the United States, because what many people may not know is that Al Jazeera English has been struggling for years to get a spot into the cable packages here in the United States, but it has been faced with resistance from the major cable carriers here. So Al Jazeera America had to buy current TV to guarantee a spot for itself on the media map here. I think Al Jazeera America would definitely change that's the hope. The expectations is that Al Jazeera America would have more in-depth coverage, less superficial, less reliance on the soundbite culture that exists here in the US mainstream media. With all these features and all these characteristics, adding to that the continuous attempts on the part of Al Jazeera America to delve into issues that are not really on the radar of the American mainstream media, giving a spotlight to the marginalized groups in societies, focusing on the so-called global south. And the global south here does not just mean geographic, but also means symbolic. Symbolically, anybody who is marginalized, any group that is marginalized socially or politically, all these are noble causes for any journalist around the world to do.
We're speaking with Dr. Mohammed El-Nawawy, Associate Professor of Communications at Queen's University, here on Worldview with Dennis Campbell. Dr. Nawawy, we're seeing now unprecedented moves, though, in Egypt, Syria, Iran, Iraq. Iraq massacred 52 people in Camp Ashraf this past weekend, and other Arab states brutally suppress news and control dissent. Now, I'm going to ask you the question here I always get when I sit in your chair. Have the Arab Spring and Egyptian revolutions failed?
You know, I'm one of those optimists who always looks at the bright side. I think the Arab Spring, the problem to start with was that people's expectations was so high. The ceiling of expectations at the beginning of the Arab Spring, people thought that overnight things would be rosy, there would be democratic regimes set in place, they would enjoy every right that a human being ought to enjoy in a democratic environment. But of course, this doesn't happen. You know, if we look at any well-established democracy in today's world, it took decades, if not centuries sometimes, for democracy to come by. So there is no question that the Arab Spring was a needed move on the part of the people. The good thing about the Arab Spring, it was launched by the Arabs themselves, particularly in countries like Egypt and Tunisia, for example, without any kind of foreign intervention. So the people feel that they have regained their countries, and that I think is a very good, important step in the right path. But I think to follow through with that, the people need to be patient, and they need to set their eyes on one goal, which is rebuilding their countries, because it's easier to topple dictatorships than to rebuild the country. And by rebuilding the country, I mean writing the constitutions. Do we write the constitution first, or elect the president first? How would the parliament function in a democracy? Is it going to be a parliamentary system, or is it going to be a presidential system? All these things are important questions that the Arabs have not thought about at the beginning, but now they are realizing the need and the importance to look into these issues, and that these issues need to take time.
One of the things that concerns me very much is the targeting of those in the journalism profession. Now, we did a segment with the good folks from ADayWithoutNews.com. They were friends of the journalist Marie Colvin and the award-winning photographer Remy Ochlak, who were killed in Syria in February of last year. Now, with their deaths and the deaths of hundreds of other journalists and so many kidnappings, including NBC's Richard Engel in the last 3 years, how do you advise journalists in danger zones to cover these breaking stories and yet protect themselves?
And I would add to that list Anthony Shadid, for example, who, of course, he died in trying to cover the Syrian civil war. But I think journalism is always a risky business, and journalists going into such volatile parts of the world know in the back of their minds that they are risking their lives for a noble cause. But I think that, it's a sad reality that sometimes journalists are specifically targeted because, you know what, some regimes and some people in power don't want the reality of what's happening to get spread around the world. And for that reason, they think that journalists are more dangerous than any other faction in society, because those are the ones who are going to convey reality of what's happening to the people. So it's just an inevitable sometimes, unfortunately, for some journalists, but I hope that journalists take their own precautions, that whoever journalists who get sent to these places are well trained to avoid risks and to avoid dangers. They are not just being parachuted in without any experience in dealing with that kind of harsh realities on the ground.
Well, Dr. Nawawy, I want to thank you for taking the time to speak with us here on Worldview today. This has been very enlightening, and I've enjoyed it thoroughly.
Thank you very much, Dennis. It's a pleasure, and I hope that the viewers will benefit from this. If I may add to what you said about my books, I just had a newly released book on the titled Egyptian Revolution 2.0. And I also, the one before that is Islam.com, which deals with the mainstream Islamic websites. Just one I have.
Thank you. Dr. Mohammed El-Nawawy is the Associate Professor of Communications at Queen's University. He joined us today via Skype from Charlotte, North Carolina. You're watching Worldview with Dennis Campbell. Stay right here.